It's the closest that it gets to being on a pit, on a floor. That's why, the gamers pre-2000 were able to transition as opposed to the pit traders, because they were more used to that embodied experience of being on a trading floor, that physical proximity, the smell of fear, the scent of fear, the seeing another guy on the opposite side of the room sweating and understanding what orders he might be what orders he might be holding. The first thing, you've got to survive the next 4 years as a trader, in order to reward yourself. So our senior traders were able to make big six-figure days on this US election. Anyone who says that can sell you a strategy, strategies expire, or strategies go out of fashion, they can come back again. To be a top performer, you have to first want to enjoy being uncomfortable, wanting to enjoy being curious. I've mentioned this multiple times.
Welcome back to the AXIA Futures channel. Today we are joined once again by Alex Haywood, the co-founder and head of strategy here at AXIA Futures, taking the charge of our Cyprus trading floor. Alex has been instrumental in shaping the long and profitable careers of traders across all of our floors, and especially now particularly here in Cyprus. In this conversation, we'll be exploring the key tools and the strategies that our traders use, the challenges that they're facing every day, and how they can progress in their careers. Whether you're looking to start your trading journey or take your skills to the next level, Alex's insights will surely provide you with a solid foundation. And of course, for those interested in experiencing a dynamic trading environment, our Cyprus trading floor offers a unique opportunity to develop your trading career, which we'll also be discussing. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation once again.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And it's just great to be here in our outdoor classroom, sandwiched between the two trading floors. And we'll see if we get a little bit hot later on. It's 20 degrees now. November here in Cyprus. We can jump into the swimming pool. But hopefully we can do more of these in the future.
Yeah, for sure. This is almost like our sanctuary, right?
There we go.
Bit of peace in the midst. Right, so first of all, I'm going to start off with talking about some of the tools that we're using here at AXIA. And following on actually from the last conversation that we had on our last video, you did mention the importance of course, trading tools for performance. Can you start by listing the core tools that you emphasize for traders here at AXIA and explain why they are so effective?
Yeah, I think we're actually having a workshop, I think in a couple of weeks' time, 26th of November. So for those who just want to go a little bit more detail of how we use our tools. But I had a workshop here as well for our Cyprus traders as well as our Blueprint community, I think last week, discussing the structure and the process of why we use tools. And a lot of people are just, tool shoppers or, tool single shoppers. And for us, we categorize what's the purpose, what type of alpha are we trying to get at from each tool, from each trading tool that is. And we've kind of segmented into, first level trading tools, second level trading tools, third level trading tools, almost edge bucket 1, 2, and 3. And every tool that you select should fall in one of those. And each of those areas will determine from your idea generation tools. You can't use all the trading tools that are in the universe as your idea generation tools. And then what are your execution tools? What are your tools to decide which zones that you're going to operate? And then how do those tools talk to each other? And how do they, what's the process sequence between the tools? And also creating a very simplistic approach. And from our side, on the idea generation, the tool that I've observed for, the last 20 years, and I also feel the idea generation tool is probably getting the most disruptive technology, especially, with the AI large language universe, how we can research how coding is becoming more accessible. That first level environment of tools is what's starting to explode. I'm starting to see it on the trading floors here in Cyprus, in London. But one of our primary tools in idea generation from a technical perspective, contextual structure, is the market profile. And it's also the way you can assimilate how, you've also got to ask yourself, how does the human brain, how do your cognitive faculties in pattern recall and recognition digest, assimilate your observation of the markets? And some tools do that much more powerfully than others, how the brain works. And market profile is the one that our traders can shape an understanding of the markets much more strategically and therefore much more tactically. And then there's that second level of tools. And once you understand the structure, the idea generation, that second level is almost understanding the zones, the structure, the areas that you want to participate. And then that third level of tools is one that's been around for a long time, but is the area where you're going to start applying your nonlinear sizing. And so that nonlinear sizing, what separates our very top traders. But our primary colors or primary tools are from the market profile, and we have some different shades of gray as we go down to the price ladder. And every single tool has its own pattern inventory. But how do the different tools talk to each other to give you that very clear signal? Because a lot of people just go about shopping in one tool and they think all tools are made alike. And not all tools lead to that, where we talk about, your observations, pattern, and then strategy. We speak about that in our, in our book that we're being, that's being released. And then how you use your tools will also determine your win-loss ratio. The tools that are just going to give you idea generation, you probably need a win-loss ratio of around 80%. But if you sequence your tools correctly, and then you know how to apply nonlinear sizing of how the tools are working together, your win-loss ratio can be 35% or less, and you can still have a 7 or 8 figure trading career, which we have with all of our traders on the floor.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to what you were saying about that AI and that explosion of what we're seeing right now, it's very exciting to see how we're just almost kind of scratching the surface with it, right? And we saw a lot of it with the elections. I want to talk about the elections today as well. But yeah, it's super exciting to kind of just sort of see something that's just almost about to explode.
But I mean, just what you're speaking about there, Peter, as I mentioned, we have these 3 segments, or these 3 areas, these 3 buckets of, all of these trading tools are for the idea generation bucket. All of these trading tools are for our training, our validation, our access. And then, the final action item tools are, for your execution, is in that 3rd bucket. The one that is having that so-called intelligent explosion, from where you can almost build up your trading assistants, from the so-called AI agents, and we're going to see a lot of technology progress. One of our traders here in the Cyprus floor is enabling himself where he compounds himself, from one to many traders, and so that first bucket, the idea generation, the research and development, that's the area that's receiving the most explosive innovation and adaptation.
Yeah. Amazing. Right. So, I mean, coming to mastering these tools, right, or at least working really, really well with them and developing with these tools, I've often heard you talk about the effect to return equation, right? Can you explain to the viewers what this means and how traders can optimize their efforts to get the best returns using these tools?
Yeah, so always speak about it, with our junior traders on the desk, and whether in our 6-month blueprint coaching program or a 6-week career program, is the tools that you select. Sometimes when, especially when you're new to this game, it's hard. You're going to grab onto whatever, makes sense, that can be, logically, deduced or inferred. And you have to, as you gain experience, you have to consistently ask yourself these curious questions. Is the effort that I'm putting into that tool, the return on the information that I'm receiving to make a decision, is that tool validating that process or that framework? So, if your idea is to understand the trend dynamics of the market, and for example, using a Fibonacci retracement or projection tools, and can that give you, the effort to understand all the retracement, all the mathematical factors of projections? Is that as powerful, devoting your effort on that tool versus a market profile structure with certain type of explosive single prints, a double distribution pattern that your brain can assimilate, that your brain can make a higher probability decision, versus a certain oscillator versus a certain RSI to predict whatever time frame you're trading, the direction that market is going? So ask yourself, there's a question asked, what is that tool, the effort that you're deploying, what type of reward and information that you're receiving to make a high calculated, high probability trade decision.
Yeah, right. Makes total sense. Moving on to something that obviously many are familiar with, especially traders who are new to the game. Candlesticks are something that they look at all the time. It's the first thing that traders generally look at and familiarize themselves with. And they're a fundamental tool for many traders, and of course one of the popular tools that people tend to know about prior to joining AXIA. And I wanted to sort of touch on this just based on that. Do you see them playing a role in the way our brains process and remember trading patterns, and why are they so impactful for traders?
Yeah, I think it's starting anything is how do you simply grab onto concepts of price action, market closing on the opens, on the hour, whichever time frame that you're envisaging. I mean, that's I think where 99% of people start. But then as you start progressing through the ranks of your experience, your ability to understand the market and the shape structure of the market, the candlesticks is such a great area to start. And then once you start imposing the way, again, how our brain digests and assimilates information, how we metabolize our observation, we take that one next step, and we have workshops, during our career program, and multiple times on our 6-month blueprint is there are certain shape structures of the candlesticks may not be able to show you, such as the market profile. So that's why our very top 8-figure profile traders use the market profile relative to the candle. Now the candlestick's a nice little snapshot, but to understand the time value of how a market is spending its time, where it's putting pressure time, how it's distributing its price and time over a certain period that you're observing. And the mere fact that the profile shows certain types of shapes that then result in certain type of asymmetrical moves gives a significant higher probability bet than a mere candlestick structure, which is almost a one-dimension view of time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what your experience is like, of going from candlesticks to market profile.
Yeah, it was. I mean, going back to that previous video that we did do, was it almost a year ago? Yeah, I think it was, right.
Yeah.
And I was in the career program, and my favorite week up until that point was the market profile, because it was just so. Again, I came here with that same understanding, that same viewpoint of looking at candles constantly and just sort of trying to make sense of the market and how the market's moving, and then learning through that week in the career program about market profiles, and of course all the way up until now, and just really sort of delving deeper into that experience. It was such an eye-opener. It's almost kind of like seeing, I might be out of term here, but like a 4D effect, right?
It does. It's exactly that. It's receiving that almost deeper levels of information, and the way you structure trades on the market, on the market profile. And again, the market profile we'd classify that's that edge bucket number 1. That's when you throw your tools out, throw the bar charts, candlestick, and market profile. And for us as a team, that market profile is of the highest rank of edge bucket 1 tool selection for technical idea generation. And then when you interface that, or when you interface that with your other more granular tools, you then have that potential, explosive asymmetrical structure and setup that you can lean on.
Yeah. And every day is a whole new day for me when I'm looking at them and always trying to find something new. It's incredible. Moving on to the price ladders as well, from that. They're a tool that you frequently mention as having a significant impact on trading, and something that I've just learned to absolutely love. And my eyes have just. I remember first looking at the ladders when I got here. I was trying to make sense of them, and now couldn't trade without them. And couldn't see the markets almost without them. Especially in terms of position sizing, and non-linear sizing as well that you were mentioning. Can you elaborate on how the trained eye can use the ladders effectively, both on a macro and micro level, to see the auction process?
The price ladder, what's going to be interesting is to see, with the technology evolution, what's going to be happening over the next, 5 to 10 years. But that's part of our edge bucket number 3.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a tool that we put it, throw down in that edge bucket, and the price ladder, the DOM, it's not a B-book tool, right? Within, I know there's a lot of these FX brokerages out here in Cyprus. I think it has the greatest population of FX brokerages per capita on the planet.
Yeah.
And the price ladder, the direct market access, linked up in all to the global exchanges, you're seeing the participation of someone with zero experience or a large institutional fund. And that activity that goes on the price ladder, it's the closest that it gets to being on a pit, on a floor. That's why the gamers pre-2000 were able to transition as opposed to the pit traders, because they were more used to that embodied experience of being on a trading floor, that physical proximity, the smell of fear, the scent of fear, the seeing another guy on the opposite side of the room sweating and understanding what orders he might be what orders he might be holding. But that DOM is that great kind of gamer's representation. And as a tool, when you gain more experience, and I just want to diverge a little bit, I call about that slope of intelligence. If you were to draw an axis, you have the X and the Y axis, along forget my axis, but along the Y axis you have experience and time, and on the X axis you have P&L. And the trading tools that you select over a period of time, if say for example you choose just candlesticks, your P&L over time can actually veer towards negative by just using that tool, or just using a bar chart tool, or just using a footprint tool. Now, every tool that you add on that slope, every tool that you add on that axis, as you add the candlesticks and then you compound that with a footprint, all of a sudden the slope starts pointing towards the upside. You then overlay the price ladder on top of those. So as your information spectrum starts becoming richer in your understanding of the probabilistic setting of a trade setup, your slope just starts changing. The gradient change towards P&L becomes more handsome as you gain the experience. You still need to develop the experience, the skill sets, understanding the environmental regimes as the market starts shifting. But that slope of intelligence is a function and a product of the tools you add into your observations of the market. You add the wrong tools, you can add more tools and go the opposite way.
Yeah.
If you add the right tools, you go in the positive way if you gain the experience. There are so many granular patterns. Now, you've also got to be careful. When you're a new, young trader, you haven't cultivated discipline, you haven't developed the edge, it becomes almost like crack cocaine, where you're just seeing, it's like going to Vegas and seeing all the lights, and that's what it's like, right?
Yeah,
when you're a new trader, we have one of our junior traders here sitting opposite here who's just joined the floor, and becomes exciting because it's so highly suggestible, the ladder.
Yeah.
It seduces you. There's a little flicker of move, and your FOMO side gains attraction. So once you understand the patterns, once you understand the order flow, once you understand how you interface with the market, once you start understanding how you cultivate your discipline to wait, it is the only tool that every single one of our traders use, that then once you cultivate that skill, that's where the non-linear sizing comes in. And it's a tool that you can apply the greatest deployment of capital because of the information input that it's giving you in real time will tell you how wrong or right your trade is.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. Just lastly, just on this segment on tools, and since you referenced the footprint as well, it would be a shame not to throw the footprint into this discussion. You referred to the footprint as well in the past as the price ladder, frozen and moving. For traders managing multiple markets, how does utilizing the footprint, or how can utilizing the footprint help them quickly access past market activity and adjust their strategies?
Yeah, the footprint chart, it appeared, at least within the prop trading setting, new tools always come from the grassroots levels up. It's like certain large language models on our floor and how traders are utilizing them comes from the junior traders first.
Yeah.
And they find more productive ways, more efficient way, more effective ways to observe the market, and that's how the footprint entered our domain. And that came in I think 2012, 13. One of the first main charting companies, I think it was Market Delta, and they developed the footprint. What's great about the footprint is that it's like you watching a cartoon, or you receiving these snapshots of the ladder. Then all of a sudden, if you're peering, you've got 20 ladders, you're trading multiple global macro futures markets, and you want to understand what the activity, something's come out or there's been an accelerated move in the market, and you can quickly assess of what the price ladder has been doing, but within a snapshot of the footprint. And then within the footprint, there's a universe of patterns, and I'd put the footprint in the edge bucket 2. Okay, in that edge bucket 2 of accessing your plays. Now you're not seeing price move, but you're seeing where those zeros are lined up. If there's been a stop, where the first bit of action and auctioning activity has happened, where there's been an iceberg pattern. If you haven't been looking at copper or the ZN or ES or crude, the crude market. So it's that great partner for the price ladder, and it's almost that middle partner between the profile and the price ladder, as the footprint stands in the middle.
Yeah.
As those three tools linking and communicating with each other.
Incredible. Awesome. Right. Let's leave the tool side of things now. Move on to something which I want to touch on, that we've gone through recently, which is the war stories and the trading insights segment, is what I've named it. And before we go through my notes, obviously we're coming off the back of the US elections, right? And it was my first experience, especially trading and being here on the US elections night. I mean, we were here from 8 in the morning until like 5, 6. I mean, it was a very long slog, but it was
you Greeks have such stamina. Your energy. I remember. I mean, you plowed through. You're in the office the whole evening.
It was a long slog, but it was so incredible to see the prep process, the talks we all had. You coming onto the floor, the traders getting together, getting their processes right and their plans together, and all the tools that we were using. And we can do this. I want to do another video actually purely on that. But can we just hear from your point of view and your side of things, how the US elections were, and some war stories that you might have to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we what you mentioned there, going on the trading floor, us discussing, that's a part of trading that I absolutely love. I just sent a video on one of our Teams groups, one of our global Teams groups, where many of our traders are located. It's just speaking about the NVIDIA earnings next week, and when you see that organism pulse, when you see the power of the network effect of traders collaborating, that's when you scale the intelligence, right, of the network of all these discretionary traders. And that US elections was just beautiful. I mean, you're in those Teams groups, you saw as people started first understanding the swing states, and then going to the swing bellwether counties, and then understanding the times of the release, and then engaging on the floor. And that whole night, although none of us had sleep, we were just so plugged in, the controlled adrenaline, trading that night, preparing as a group, seeing the activity of the market, and seeing how different this election traded in the night was also something that was very new. And I think this election, came on the back of, and on our, we have, a new publication, and asymmetrist.com, which, nice long form writing of that election night. And you can read, a nice blow-by-blow account of that evening, how the traders traded it. Some of the big numbers, but the numbers could have been even bigger. There was a few twists in the tail, that evening. And what was fascinating about, what I found fascinating about, the U.S. elections, that's because it is the systemic event that can drive global asset moves, given the government policies over the next 4 years. Everyone is plugged in. Because everyone's plugged in and there's so much money at stake, their technology evolution, going to US elections from a trading perspective in order to predict the certain outcomes. There's about 3,140 plus counties in the US. There's a lot of mail-in votes that happened post-2020 because of COVID. And so there are all these predictive models, but these predictive models, designed by the institutional funds, are now more accessible because there's the ability to be a quantitative analyst and code as a discretionary day trader. There's the public information. So seeing also, there's always a technology explosion in every election because people want to get that information fast and quick. And so the way this US election traded was so different to 2016 when Clinton was, at the beginning of the night was leading. We started getting a bid in the equity markets. And then all of a sudden that change of the swing states started coming in. But this time it was very different. The markets, there was the poly market, was predicting the outcomes. You sat on the floor with our experienced traders, and it's for me when I see a US election and I see the collaboration, and then also trying to debrief. We've debriefed twice this US election on the team, on the floor here in Cyprus. Yeah. We debriefed it, a day after when all of us had our sleep. I think you slept for the first time 12 hours in a row. And we had a lot of traders had their best sleep. Our traders with their whoop scores are normally like in severe sleep deficit on average. We're still trying to get to the Andrew Huberman level of, light in the morning, light in the evening, so we sleep really well, or the man who's going to live to 1 trillion years, Brian Johnson. Yeah. So all the guys, but, a lot of our traders, they were looking at screens late at night. But what was fascinating is as the night started, evolving, how every little nail in the coffin before the swing states were released, the markets knew that Trump was going to win. Yeah. And that just shows you the technical information evolution of receiving that information, making these predictive models. And so the next election, there's going to be a new technological advance. And our junior traders, our traders, are going to be able to assimilate their own information inputs to make that call earlier on. But then they require, and what's interesting on that night, the traders that did the best in the firm were the traders who are order flow, price ladder, DOM traders. Yeah. The ones who are very strong on news and waiting for that news, there weren't those real news catalysts. The media information that you could trade off back in 2016 didn't occur this time. And so how are you adapting in real time? And the best adaptive tool in real time is the price ladder. Yeah. Because you're seeing the auctioning, you're seeing the activity, as some results are coming in or results not coming in, but the poly markets, the betting markets is moving direction because someone's got a better predictive model that's putting money and capital at play. So it's just the most wonderful night to debrief. Yeah. And that's, part of our ecosystem is how do we go about debriefing each other? Yeah. How do we go about putting as many eyes on this observation so we can share it within the group, so everyone is just compounding their learning over these events.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a very fun night. We also did the live YouTube stream as well, which was that was
really the first. Fun. Yeah,
that was the first. And I'm glad you mentioned the asymmetries because I was going to bring that up as well. And we can throw a link down below. Because that was actually a great read up. The next couple of days when I was in that recovery position and just kind of going through the whole night and reliving it was a great read. So yeah.
What was your favorite? What was your biggest learning of the night?
Oh God, there's so many. I mean, just the whole process. I mean, I had a brief understanding of the states and the swing states, but trying to come up with a plan of action, talking to the other guys, but then, like you're saying, keeping an eye on order flow. And that was something that I was trying to really keep my eye on.
And the correlations.
And and choosing the market selection, right? That market selection was so important because early on, it was the bonds were really working well for me. It was just, there's just so many because it was my first election, right? And I'm still yet, I've debriefed it, we've debriefed it, but I want to almost do a dedicated video, I think, to that because I want to really sort of hammer in the nail for that next time.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I was speaking to the junior traders afterwards when we did the first debrief, and I said, well, you have to debrief this because these rarely happen. But if you debrief it deeply and you come back in 4 years' time, the first thing you've got to survive the next 4 years as a trader in order to reward yourself. So our senior traders were able to make big 6-figure days on this US election, but they were able to survive. They were able to grant themselves that optionality to trade the so-called bonus days, bonus events, because they survived in between the cycle.
Yeah.
And that's one of the critical parts. So you're always debriefing for the future, so your pattern recall is more effective.
Yeah.
You can be more convicted in the execution of your trades, trust your observation because you debriefed before. But what are you doing to survive? To survive in between. But yeah, it was for me. This was the U.S. elections that I think technology has changed everything, in the sense of that, edge bucket one trading tools of how you go about researching, and again, with these large language models, it's also allowed everyone to become coders, because the purpose of these large language models, they're trained on all coding, is that you can start coding in the English language. So imagine if you're a trader that's trained, skillfully trained, you have a curious mindset, and all of a sudden you can now start back-end coding, create your own predictive models, but you don't need to understand Python, C++, C#, and so forth. In the future.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, going back to the process and the surviving of the game, was something that I was talking to some of the guys earlier on, because we've got the career program running at the moment, and next week is to do with your structuring your days, your preparations, your debriefing. And one of the things that I was saying was, such an important week just to kind of cultivate that, because that is what is going to help you survive, right? And that's what's going to help you push, and that's going to help you succeed eventually.
Yeah, it's that week 5 of our career program is, you train all the tools, the skill sets, but how do you go and cast your learning system? Because there's great quotes about, the illiterate of the future are not the people who cannot read. The illiterate of the future are the people who cannot learn.
Right. Yeah.
And so we spent a large part, and that's why the week 5 and 6 of the career program is all that focus on what are effective debriefing systems, because again, effort to reward ratio is how you debrief, what you debrief, so your mind can digest it, so in real time you can recall effectively your observations of the past.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to create methods in how to observe, because those observations you need to be able to draw upon them in real time to deploy your trades. And so there's a strategy and a system how you organize and orchestrate your observations of the market, and therefore how you are able to express those observations in real time the next time they come. So that on the week 5 and 6 is your debriefing, and your debriefing covers a multitude of of areas, from data trading, central bank trading, certain flow events, certain tier 1 data that's moving the market, and technical plays and patterns.
Yeah. And we got so much to talk about on debriefs and stuff, but I almost want to handle and really kind of, I'm really trying to push over to the guys on floor too, all the new guys, or the guys that are on the career program, that it's just such a vital thing, because it's really exciting to come in and study the tools, the market profile, and all of that, but to really focus in on almost mastering that craft, that side of things, right? Because that's what's going to help develop.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Right. Let's go on one more on the war stories, and I think we could actually do a whole segment videos moving forward on war stories.
Maybe twice a month, we can have, if those who are watching on YouTube, if this type of format you like it, mention what part you liked in the comments below. We're happy to try and execute these a little bit more regularly, especially the war stories from the floor and what we're seeing happening out of our 130 plus traders that we have in the group.
That heartbeat, that pulse on the floor, right? Amazing, right? So, Alex, in all your years, you've experienced many intense moments, I'm sure, right, on the trading floor. Not just the year selections, just so many through the years and throughout your career, which have been so encapsulating. Can you share with us a story, perhaps even maybe the Japan night LPD, where you witnessed how traders responded in real time to market movements? You described it a few days ago as a pulsing organism. Could you expand on that and what you mean by the knowledge virus in these situations?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get a little bit too flowery with my words, and
I love it.
And but I leave that. I think who's even more flowery is Bogdan, who's the main writer and co-founder of Asymmetrist, and yeah, if you know, he really describes. But speaking about those Japanese elections, now let's rewind back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, where, a little bit more, where traders were just one market ponies, Bund, Bobble, Schatz, or equity markets. And there's been such a great, and we've done multiple workshops on this, either on our channel or on our webinars that we do for the community, of the evolution of not only the collaboration, but the evolution of being these holistic futures traders who will move between markets, global futures markets that are moving, and the reason why they do that. And what was fascinating, a week before those, the Japanese ruling party, we're going to name a new leader, none of us knew the importance of this election for Japanese assets, and hence some other assets outside that, of a systemic influence. And so all it required was one message, send in our local Teams group from one trader within the firm, sending that message, and all of a sudden, it almost creates this plumbing, this infrastructure, this bricklaying work into other traders saying, oh, that's interesting. And then other traders start researching, and that's what I talk about, that pulsing organism that just starts from a text observation, and that text observation on a Teams chat group then reverberates into verbal conversation within a floor setting. And then now you're electrifying more of that physical embodiment between traders. And then all of a sudden that energy starts rising as conversations become more rich, the research becomes richer, and that's that why I describe it as a knowledge virus. It starts one, and then as more senior traders pick on it, senior traders are going to have more critical momentum and mass of what's important, not because they've been there. And so then all of a sudden the junior, it dripples down, and then the junior traders feel this is important because the senior traders are looking at it, and then that network effect starts vibrating. And then from not knowing anything from a week before, George Soros used to speak about during the Asian flu crisis in the 90s, how overnight, as he started being a bond vigilante and a currency vigilante on all those, Vietnam, Thailand, all of those Asian currencies that were pegged to the dollar, as he started hunting them down and just, governments having to depeg. He said it would take him 24 hours to become, he had a little model that he could become an expert on that economy in 24 hours. And that's what happens with our traders. Within 24 hours, and with the advent of some of these large language models, how to do research, how who to follow, who's going to release the information, is it going to come out in Japanese? How are you going to trade it if it does come out in Japanese? So all of a sudden, the tactical elements within the floor, the traders start speaking about. And again, this then dripples down into our career program, into our 6-month coaching program, and it starts from the knowledge of the guys who have skin in the game, who are trading it, who are going to have to debrief. And so all of a sudden, within 1 week, trading those Japanese elections, the guys became specialists. Which leaders will mean what? Who will be voting? What markets they're going to select? Trading the JBL, the Japan 10-year bond on another exchange, the Nikkei, the Japanese yen. And seeing that in action, the most beautiful part of seeing that in action is just seeing, because I love it. I absolutely love when it becomes the knowledge share within the group. And then from that viral knowledge share, then the viral activity of the tactical trade structuring, and then the real-time element of how you're going to be trading these trades.
And I mean, just having, just being on the floor, whether you are, the junior who's coming in doing the career program, all the way up to the ones that, that are live, that are trading, that effect that you said, where how it trickles down. It's like I felt how it was, a year ago, 6 months ago, and how it is now. It's just kind of being able to navigate through all of that and just seeing that value in what you're hearing, what you're seeing. it's incredible. And yeah, just like you, I get so excited when something like that does happen. Or even we had the China stimulus stuff as well.
Yes.
Right. Same sort of thing we had. Yeah.
Yeah. Like contracts and expands. So as like, theme or technical plays. Sometimes it's a themeless market, but also there's some technical plays, and the traders who are more fluent in the technical structures of the market, all of a sudden their discussions start growing. And where a floor or a team starts disintegrating is when those discussions, those sharing stops happening.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's move on to next section now, which is what I've called the learning path of a trader, which we never stop learning, of course. But something that you've often emphasized, that trading requires a certain level of resilience, grit, and discipline, right? Why do you believe that traders should be prepared for the realities of making it in this career? And what mindset do they need before even entering this game?
Yeah, it's one of the most it's a profession and a job and a professionalism and a pursuit that is so misunderstood, just simply because the nature of the marketing, how accessible trading is. And I've used this metaphor before. You can't play a Rugby World Cup final or play in the finals of Wimbledon by just picking up a racket and opening up an account and participating. Whereas in the financial markets, you can have no experience, open up a trading account and compete with some of our biggest traders.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's no gatekeeper. It's just you have some money, you open up an account. And that learning path of a trader, first it starts with your expectation, because it can be so skewed in the marketplace. And there's so many things that have to land correctly. And first is your expectation, and you get shocked with that. In the beginning, the first 3-6 months is a romantic period, right? You're super enthusiastic, vigorous to learn, and then it becomes reality. So when you start trading live, you start getting hit in the face. Is then you start testing, well, what is your resilience capacity? Do you really love to learn from your losses? Some people shy from it. It depends what their childhood upbringing was. It depends if you went to an Ivy League school or Oxbridge, where you've been tapped on the shoulder, on the head, or well done, gold stars for getting these answers wrong or right. In a game that's a probabilistic game, where there's no such thing as wrong or right. You can be wrong but right, and you can be right but wrong. And understand that as long as you have something that works on average, but when people start suffering because they have an intellectual ego, they struggle to be wrong, then you start seeing the manifestation, or what starts kind of bringing up from their core identity to the surface of what it really means to them to be wrong. And is this game that do they really want to face themselves? And so that beginning part is you're first having to develop skills. You're first having to learn the skill sets. And there's nothing more sad than seeing someone who has all the resilience capacity, but is learning the wrong way, or learning the wrong method, or learning the wrong mental frameworks, because he could have all the right psychological capacity, but he's learning frameworks and systems that aren't going to aid him to get there. So that's one of the saddest parts of this game. You put all your effort, but you're not provided with the right foundation to elevate your potential talent and understanding of the market. So, and then also having the right training, as I just mentioned, the right team. You could end up in a team that's excelling in a certain environment, and you can actually start your career very well, because that team, that edge, matches that environment. But that mentality, that resilience, starting on the floor. I've had traders here in Cyprus, junior traders that started that, quitted after, 3 months, 6 months, expecting to make X amount of money in that time. But it's almost a disrespect to the traders who devote and put all their effort in and trying to perfect this art. We've had 2 junior traders just recently here in Cyprus who, we had 1 junior trader, probably made 100K in the last 6 weeks, but his journey up until that was he had to be questioned. He had to see other junior traders leave around him. He had to see other people, saying that trading is crap, and so the other very important aspect is curiosity in the face of losses. How curious one of our top traders, call him the profile engineer. He always invests in loss in the sense that when he loses on a trade, his curiosity spikes. Most people, when they lose, their curiosity diminishes. They become more insular. They ego rip themselves apart. They sadomasochise themselves, and they don't want to think about the loss. And so whereas that loss is a profound opportunity to compound your learning, if you allow it, if you listen to the lesson. And then there's that curiosity, and then there's the constant exposing yourself in discomfort. A lot of people don't like to be uncomfortable for prolonged periods. We can be uncomfortable for a day. The best traders revel in being uncomfortable, exposed, like, okay, I've been on a good run. The next time I see the same trade setup, am I going to be more uncomfortable? What are my tactics to be discomfort so I can take lessons if the trade goes wrong? So that curiosity, that discomfort, and then what happens is during that learning path of that learning journey, and I always say you have to survive 2 years, because during those 2 years you're learning the skills, you're learning how you interface with the market, you're learning how you develop yourself during those 2 years in different sequences and environments of the market where you have a shortcoming, and also the facts of life. Parents, other half, questioning why are you doing this game and what type of capacity you have. And so it's incredibly tough. But if I were to, if I were to ask you, starting in this game, what does it take to be, Djokovic or a professional football player or professional tennis player? It takes a lot of pain. It takes a lot of questioning and doubts. And if you can overcome that and you don't have a plan B, we speak about that in our book that's being released in March next year, that the top traders don't have plan B.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on that same note, there's a common expectation of achieving wild riches in trading, right? Mainly in part due to, as we've mentioned in many of the videos, that toxic environment of, the YouTube gurus. We actually did a video on that recently. You can click that in the corner on the top right. And you are always highlighting the importance of understanding the reality behind this. Okay, and can you elaborate on what traders should really and truly expect in the feeling that accompanies the pursuit of success in this field?
Yeah, two words in the beginning is that what type of, when you come into a trading environment or a trading community that has successful traders, that's breeded successful traders, is one of the core elements. And, there's such a miss, when perhaps you look in the social media space, certain advertising of that space, and for wrong or for rightly, sometimes it gets people into this game, which is great. People getting on the buzz of crypto has brought a lot of traders into the futures markets, and but it is a professional pursuit. And so one of the ultimate and important measures when you start this game is you want to, when you're in the right setup and in the right environment, if you're in that right environment, one of the elements is learning velocity. Like, what is your learning velocity in the environment that you're developing? Are you going to be pigeonholed, a siloed trader? And your learning velocity is a function of your ability to listen to your periphery. Observe, what I call about, who are the top in those edge segments, and AXIA, especially in our, 6-week career and our 6-month, coaching blueprint program, we talk about, 4 really core skill sets. You can almost elaborate that out to 6 when you talk about risk and sizing management and, your learning systems. And how do you digest and listen from your environment? Because a lot of people think they listen, but they don't go and reflect after what they've learned from senior trader. They don't go and strip it down, reverse engineer all the mechanics that trader was speaking about. So having that learning velocity at the beginning of your career, having that acute way to listen to those who have come before you, who have been, successful. And so that learning framework is is so important. And anyone who says that can sell you a strategy, strategies expire, or strategies go out of fashion, they can come back again. But you want to become an entire market navigator, you know, a holistic speculator that you can ride whatever tide that the market provides for you over time. And so that's where you're trying to develop all skill sets. Traders could survive 20 years ago on 1 or 2 strategies for a prolonged period. The markets move, shift, are significantly, I feel, more dynamic than they've ever been. But that presents a great opportunity to those ones who are willing to learn in a very adaptive and dynamic way.
Yeah, and adaptive is such a key word there as well. Is that, I mean, one of the senior elite traders here, you know, talks about it a lot. That skill of continuously working on adaptation. You can't sit and sit and be comfortable. You have to always be ready to move with the markets.
Sorry, and on that, you know, that adaptive, saying the word adaptive is great, but what are the mechanisms, tactics, and systems and processes that you can be adapting? You know, adaptability is a function of creativity. Yeah. And so we're taking our traders to Bahamas at the end of this month over the Thanksgiving week for an elite performance. You know, our top traders within the firm, some of our junior traders who've also been invited, and we're going to be training on you know, what techniques can you use to become more creative and adaptive in your domain. So there are actually systems and practices of how you can develop, adapt, you know, to be adaptive. Because what does adaptive mean, and what is that? What creating, you know, these words. What are the techniques, tactics to become like that? Yeah.
Well, that's another video.
Yes, absolutely.
We're racking them up. Okay, so you've compared the commitment required in trading to that of professional athletes, and rightly so, which is a good comparison, as some of our traders earn more than top-tier Premier League players. Now, what kind of sacrifices and discipline do you think these, I mean, I know we covered it briefly, do you think that these traders need to adopt if they aim to reach that level of success?
Yeah, it's a, you know, it's a ruthless game if you don't love to learn, especially at the beginning, why you're wrong. Yeah. You know, it's ruthless. It digs at your core, especially if your ego has been cultivated for, you know, so many centuries within your institutional system of schooling and, you know, university, and wanting to be wrong or right. But if you have that speculator's, you know, and a speculator's heart can be developed, right? But if you can be uncomfortable, if you love learning from your losses, being ruthless, being committed to the desk is easy. You know, you mentioned about, you know, the US election night, you know, just plying through. But, you know, when the markets are moving, when there's many moments that they're not moving, it grips you. It grips you wanting to understand. So, you know, to be a top performer, you have to first, you know, want to enjoy being uncomfortable, wanting to enjoy being curious. You know, I've mentioned this multiple times. And our top traders are chained to their desk. You know, they can't, you know, they will sleep, you know, at night, the guys here, you know, on the floor on that side. So we have, you know, 2 floors. This is the first floor. They're waiting for, you know, Jerome Powell later on, and they're waiting here. It's not a 9 to 5 where they're leaving, you know, I finish work for the day. They trade opportunity, not time.
Yeah, amazing. And finally, on this section, I mean, you talk about dismantling all the responses traders have acquired in life as a prerequisite to becoming successful. Could you explain what that process looks like and why it's essential for someone entering the trading profession?
Yeah, I mean, simply when you start trading, you're going to have a lot of these default responses to getting something wrong, to being wrong every day, to losing money. Like losing money, coming in, being here 14 hours a day, 12 hours, 10 hours a day, and going back home less than what you started the day, kind of digs down to our archaic, you know, stone, you know, when we were bartering, you know, with, you know, stone and copper or bronze, is very hard to, you know, digest. And so at the beginning of your career, arriving in this game, you have to be able to have a system, a practice, a process where you can go about uncovering all those default mechanisms that doesn't serve you in trading. It can serve you in other forms of life, but in trading, so one of the little practices we have is an ability to what we call our tilt analytics, and reverse engineer whatever the source code was of a certain behavior response that doesn't serve you in trading. And so if you can develop a portfolio over time of all your default responses that creates you to go and tilt in a moment, overtrade when you've lost a trade, you've been patient all day, you've been trading patiently all day, all of a sudden you wait for that one opportunity, you get it wrong because you've been patient all day, your monkey mind starts ripping you apart, starts saying, what the hell are you doing? I've been living on lentils and rice for the last 2 months, I have to pay rent next week. Or my wife or my husband is saying, why are you doing this job? And then you overtrade. And all of a sudden, in that moment, unless you go and reverse engineer where that original source code came, you will repeat that pattern in the future. The scar tissue will build up, and you won't be able to move on and compound your development. So that's an important part of unloading, uncovering, disrobing your normal response mechanisms that you have that, again, could serve you in other forms of life, but the markets demands you to have certain behavioral traits that when engaged or when triggered, that you need to make those right decisions as opposed to the ego, robbing your decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to mention this on the same topic. You mentioned before that the slightest part is when someone has all the right ingredients, but ends up in the wrong environment or learns ineffective tools. How important is it for traders to be in that right team and to have access to the most effective tools in their trading journey?
Yeah, it's because this job and trading and profession is the speculative, especially within the prop trading setting. You come on a profit split, so you're not making a salary, and so that's a difficult journey, right? Mm-hmm. So being in an environment where you have the fastest acceleration to learning skill sets that are applicable to the markets, if you develop those skill sets, you will harvest P&L.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between you learning something that no matter how skillful you become in what you've learned, you're unable to harvest P&L. That's where the tragic moment is in developing as a trader.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're learning, in the right team, right environment, around experienced traders who are extracting money from the markets, you'll learn those tools, you'll learn those skill sets, you'll learn an understanding of the market, and you apply yourself, and you skillfully apply yourself, you should extract money out of the market. And those traders who don't, there are other reasons why they don't make it. They don't have the resilience, they don't know how to deal with the loss. They're not willing to work on themselves to deal with the loss.
Yeah.
But the people who do know, who have all the attributes, but learn skill sets that will never get them there, that's for me is the saddest part of when someone devotes time and energy to something, but sometimes they have that right passion, and hopefully as a human, navigating the world, going through your journey through life, that you are able to decipher this isn't a skill set or a training regimen that is going to get me to my target, so you can pivot, do your research, and find the right people who are going to support you, who can get you to there, but also not being this alcoholic shopper, or this addicted shopper of you learn some skill sets, but you don't go deep enough to say, you apply a shallow level of learning, and you think, I'm not making money, let me try something else. And you get all these shallow level shoppers who touch in a skill set, move on to the next. And actually, no matter, even if they get given an edge in strategies, they'll never make money in this because they don't really go deep.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so I want to move on to the next part now, which is talking about the launching of our new trading floor here in Cyprus. And you launched this trading floor here in Cyprus about a year and a half ago now, approximately. Can you walk us through the journey and some of the challenges you faced in starting this new floor and how it was from the beginning?
Yeah, there's been many challenges, coming from setting up originally the London office over the years and being in London, and then coming out to a village just on the outskirts of Limassol. And in the beginning, there was a lot of fun, right? But a lot of fun that you don't want a certain amount of fun because it costs money. It costs money from the trader's perspective, from electricity being switched off, to then having to get generator, solar. Hopefully we can become the first green, carbon neutral trading floor. Many challenges been in, and I think we're at a level now where it's a world-class infrastructure. Multiple backs up from our Starlink lines to our fiber optics. Our multiple backups, and we operate for world-class traders now. And the traders that we have in our team. But one of the most challenging, beyond the infrastructure, the most important part is how do you create an environment, an ecosystem that nurtures idea sharing, idea generation. How do you organize, so we're out here in our outdoor classroom, and it's sandwiched in between, as I mentioned earlier, 2 trading floors. How do we engage in the conversations between the trading floors? The communal area in the kitchen where traders sometimes will be a little bit on the outskirts, traders sometimes put on their lunches, have a discussion over there. The outdoor gym that we have, where in the morning there's loads of rich conversations happening. If a junior trader and a senior trader are out there, having a gym. In the summer, swimming outside, all the barbecues that we have out there. How are you creating an environment, an ecosystem that stimulates the sharing, this permeable membrane, this osmosis between traders? And that's one of the most critical, one of the most critical features. We're going to hopefully be, having, I think, we're looking for a yoga teacher at the moment. So the traders also meet each other in different spaces. Because that also stimulates different conversations. So it's an important thing that we think about. Then there's also finding the team balance. We're also now at the moment looking to hire locally. We've had, since Brexit, it's a little bit more complex getting people, for example, from the UK to come and join. We had a lot of challenges, in the beginning with getting traders the ability to live and trade out in Cyprus. So we're very excited what we're doing locally, to try and find talent. We've got 2 young Greek guys that have, joined the team, which we're, very excited about their future. But also finding the team balance. In the beginning, guys who are hungry, coming to Cyprus, and being all in on Cyprus is important. We had a little bit of turnover recently, but that's also a natural state where the markets were more challenging, and junior traders who are developing those markets weren't quite achieving that. And you always get this. I've had this for 20 years, where traders come into an environment. And the markets always sacrifice the sacrificial lamb in low volatility environments, and the ones who stick it through, who have resilience, who are still carving their axe, improving their skill sets. All of a sudden, and you always get it. You can have a cluster of traders, leave, don't think they're going to make it, and then literally a week later, mass amounts of opportunities, and the junior traders have survived, and the senior traders who are still here are able to really exponentially move on P&L towards the upside.
Yeah. Amazing. And I mean, what would you say is the nucleus of the team that you've helped build? You've actually built here yourself, and how did you decide who would be the right fit for this new trading environment?
Yeah, I mean, we have to. I'm always we have a senior trader here who's really led from the front. And one of the goals when him and I first had our discussions about the Cyprus office is how are we going to build a floor that will be able to compete with the elite traders that we have in London and Poland.
Yeah.
How are we going to in 5 years' time? How can we be the biggest trading floor within the group? And we know if we're the biggest trading floor within the group, there is certainly a space where we'll probably be the biggest, prop futures trading desk in Europe.
Yeah.
So our London floor has really, exploded, and so from that side is we came here with one senior trader, and many junior traders. So we came originally with two senior traders and many junior traders. And what's happened since that time is, we had one senior trader, he had to move back to London, but our nucleus increased from effectively two, two senior traders to now a dense three traders. So we've got two traders. So all of a sudden, with those three traders, we can build another three around them.
Yeah.
And so as long as that nucleus is expanding and getting bigger, like two junior traders who started with us, 18 months ago, are now putting in some good numbers.
Yeah.
I mentioned one of the, probably made, approximately 6 figures in the last 6 weeks. It's had a couple of 30K days. And that's what's exciting to see, is that we can develop in Cyprus in a sunny climate, because we've had stories of, trading floors starting up in Dubai, starting in Gibraltar, collapsing.
Yeah.
Simply because people get too hooked into the lifestyle, and the reason moving here for the taxes, we're moving here for performance.
Yeah.
And so moving here performance, and so how are we ensuring that nucleus is growing?
Yeah, brilliant. And I mean, you mentioned that one of the first requirements for success, as we've already spoken about, is being all in, right, from the beginning. How do you identify traders who are truly committed versus those who may not be fully invested into the process? Yeah,
it's when traders join a floor, regardless of whichever trading floor, you have to be all in on the city, on the environment, in the space. Now, there are many reasons. We have had, this is fully transparent, right?
Yeah.
We speak here, about what's challenging about professional prop futures trading, and what's required to elevate and achieve the heights of some of our top traders. And one of the things that I've reflected a lot recently is people making sacrifices from moving from another country to come to Cyprus. It's big, you're leaving family. You might not have that support network, especially when times get tough, and times will always get tough. So it never does not get tough. And so when those times get tough, if you're not all in on the environment, if you're not all in the area that you've moved in, you're going to give yourself very quickly excuses why to leave.
Yeah.
And so two of our junior traders who moved out, one hated London, loves sun, loves the beach, loves the sunshine. Doesn't matter if he lives in a village as long as there's a beach.
Yeah.
The other one reminds him of growing up in Spain. And so for them, they loved the environment. So if it got tough, they felt the environment will still get them through, because they didn't use the environment as an excuse. Whereas if trading got tough and you were 50-50, and let me see if I will like Cyprus, in this instance, this example, if I would like Cyprus or not. If you're 50-50 on that idea, your monkey mind will rob you very quickly and give you reasons why to leave.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I mean by all in.
Yeah. Incredible. And being, a trading floor here in Cyprus, and we have the trading floor in London, and so on and so forth. What would you say is one of the, let's say, what is one of the biggest similarities to what we have in London, and what is one of the biggest differences that we have in London?
Yeah. So, similarities is the ability to, I'm a big proponent of collaboration and organizing it artistically and also scientifically of how traders collaborate and share. One of your duties is, you trade on the senior experience floor, on the first floor. You hear all the rich conversations that are happening, and you are the bridge to the second floor, where you'll pull aside the junior traders, have a discussion with them, what the first floor will be looking at. So you create that bridge between the first and the second floor. So it's almost becomes one floor, and so that's one of the keys is that sharing. Now we don't have the rich experience that we have on in the London office, especially on the first floor. But what we do have here is we have to then double down on our ability to converse and debrief as a group.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think we're doing incredibly, well. And then the other part is just creating a headspace and an environment that feels, we've got the palm trees behind us, the pool, we have, we don't have a neighbor on either side.
Yeah.
And so be able to, disconnect for a moment. If you've had a little tough time at the desk, to go to the gym. We have, a fruit orchard behind us. So so that's one of the different. We're not caught in a city that is potentially overwhelming. So our ability to maybe reset, to have those physiology flushes is potentially much more powerful. The ability on the weekend to swim in the sea, or in the morning to go, swim in the ocean, just to take care, holistically of yourself as a high performance trading athlete.
Yeah, and the good food.
Yeah. All the tavernas.
Yeah.
And that's helping my fatty liver.
And I mean, for me, this is one of the biggest of the many things that I love about what you've built here is, the trading environment, the floor can be so intense, at times. And even when the markets aren't, we haven't got data, we haven't got news, this is still intense to the fact that, you have to be constantly, observing, constantly working, constantly sharpening that tool. But when you need to stretch your legs, when you need to come out for a bit of fresh air to almost, like you said, reset, you have it here. You have the pool, the gym, the indoor-outdoor gym that we've got here, the walk through the fruit trees. It's like a holistic outdoor space to then the pits on the inside where it's completely that other. And I love that.
Yeah, it's almost, the yin-yang kind of environment. And, we still have many plans with the Cyprus floor. On that side, we want to, we still haven't decided exactly, but, we we've had our first infrastructure of building, make sure, the floors are getting ready, but we have other plans to create the so-called high performance retreat. So traders, and what's also great is, on the weekends, the junior traders going through their work in the Cyprus office, but having the space to, when you've got 360 days of, sunshine, it's going to create an environment on the weekends for traders to interact in a more relaxed setting. And I always say, your work on weekend is so important and so powerful, because when you detach from the market, and I've said many times on many of our internal workshops, doing your work on a weekend, when you detach from the market, you're more relaxed. When you're more relaxed, you're more creative. When you're more creative, your problem solving becomes significantly higher. So that's why your debriefing activity is important. And doing it in such a setting where, you have your screens, your desk, your infrastructure, but also having, the common areas where you converse with one or two conversations that could electrify your performance out of nowhere.
Amazing. And one last thing that I want to touch on, regarding the Cyprus office, of course, as you've mentioned, we've got lots of things coming for 2025. You've touched on a few of those things already. We've got new traders, coming in. I went, sorted out a few things for some guys that come in, actually in a couple of weeks. We do have the career program. The next one starts in February, I believe. One of the things that I noticed, and I've spoken to people, or I've heard people say, and I had the same thing myself. I originally came here just to see the floor, the fact that you were 5 minutes from the house, and I never, I almost thought it was unreachable for me to be able to sit on this trading floor, but to realize that you can actually do the career program, and like we've got Crystal's here who's doing it himself and still on the trading floor amongst other traders, me coming into that floor as that bridging of the gap while they're doing the career program is so effective. So if anyone that wants, is planning on doing the career program, know that you can also do it in our Cyprus office or in the London office. It's just a nice little heads up there for that. So moving on to another section briefly, new projects, since we've mentioned it. We've been discussing a lot of things that are coming in 2025. Especially for the Cyprus office, as we've just spoken about. Can you give our viewers maybe a little glimpse as to what's coming up? What can we say?
Yeah, I mean, we have many, a handful of new projects, mapped out in the next 18 months, from technology projects that'll hopefully, just change the landscape of performance for our traders, leveraging, the technology that's entering the market, and so it's very exciting, and we're one of them will be announced in around June, July next year. But from a learning perspective, we actually have 2 books being released next year. So in the early part, at the end of the first quarter, and we're engaging in developing a undergraduate university program too. And so that's exciting, getting students trained on futures trading, doing an undergraduate degree. We're also developing a master's program. So these are incredibly exciting opportunities in order to source our future talent. Prior to 2016, the London prop industry was collapsing because there was a demographic crisis. It was top heavy just with experienced traders, no new junior traders coming to the market. So we've worked very hard since 2016, but we want to be incredibly aggressive. There's something else very special that we'll be releasing next year with regards to traders looking for funding, both remotely and physically in-house. But that announcement should come around the end of January. And but the university program, incredibly exciting to be recruiting traders who have undergone a professional degree designed by AXIA Futures and the university, with also especially a lot of the technology that is coming around. So we develop a full armored, holistic, tech savvy trader for the future. So that's
I'm glad you mentioned about the undergraduate because that's something that, I mean, out of the many things that we've got coming, that's something that I'm truly excited about.
That you're going to go and get a degree for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, can we go into the collaboration with the university and the launch of the world's first, if I'm not mistaken, undergraduate and MSc course in futures trading?
I can't. I'm not sure. If at least the first in this region, there's within our outright discretionary order flow price ladder, potentially the first, with regards to using large language models and AI integrated with that, probably the first. So I'm sure there have been some MSCs in trading, but I don't know what scope of trading. But there'll be a lot of firsts within this program.
I mean, this is incredibly groundbreaking, and something that, in my opinion, is what the industry needs. Seeing it from that retail perspective, right? As we've mentioned, all the YouTube stuff and whatever else, it's something that the industry needs to show the way forward to a real career in trading. So incredibly excited about that, and lots to come with that. So last section, I won't take any more of your time, Alex. What it's like being a professional trader. There's a section. And as we've already mentioned, there's a common perception that trading professionally means working from a laptop on the beach, making easy money. I spoke about this in detail on my last video, which you can see here on the link above. But I'd love to hear your view on how this compares to the reality of what it takes to build a real successful trading career.
I think I mentioned this earlier on, but imagine the demands of being a professional tennis player, professional rugby player. What it takes, to achieve the heights of being paid in that profession. And, again, it gets sold as a lifestyle, through, the social media instead of, being sold as a profession. And where you are, you can be chained at your desk, but it's being chained because you love it.
Yeah.
You like almost love being on the leash.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense that, you know, you're hungry for opportunity. You're hungry to fulfill your potential as a speculator. You know, and there's nothing great, because this game is this constant reflection of yourself. So there's this hyper growth. One of our junior traders who was on the brink around 3-4 years ago, saying, I don't know if I'll get through this. I don't know if I'll do this. I keep on repeating, you know, the same. I can't handle the emotions. I can't handle what this is doing to my psyche. And myself and one of the senior traders looked at him and we said, what you are experiencing now, emotionally, will probably take 40 years in a corporate job where you won't ever expose yourself emotionally, the self-talk, sometimes the depths of despair, because you'll just climb the political ranks, expose yourself, you know, from a very surface level, whereas the market would extract every fiber out of your body emotionally, every shortfall in your character, all areas that you could get past in life, but you won't get past in the market. Mm-hmm. And so that type of emotional growth is almost, it's exponential versus, you know, I know, you know, I mean, I'm not just saying, you know, being stuck in something that never exposes you, the markets do, because you're going to take losses.
Yeah.
And taking losses will expose your character. And that's what, you know, what the best traders love to face.
Yeah.
You know, and the best traders can't get enough of, you know, it affects them. All of them get affected emotionally. I have traders who've been making, you know, tens of millions, still come to me wondering if they'll make money next week, and they've got all this evidence.
Yeah.
You know, it's still emotional. You know, it doesn't stop. There's always something new to work on.
Yeah.
You know, and that's and then the other part is, you know, this game is the constant innovation and adaptation, and the rate is becoming more rapid.
Yeah.
But that's also super exciting as an opportunity for those who are willing to evolve.
Yeah.
And adapt.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, and I'd always say, you know, any, you know, those great sportsmen who have gone through every cycle, you know, your Kelly Slaters in surfing, you know, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer in tennis, Tom Brady in, you know, NFL. Just think of what they had to do to become the top, and it's the same in trading.
Yeah, yeah, incredible. And I mean, something that I've heard a few times as well is having a mirror on you all the time, and you have to choose whether to really look into that mirror and reflect or not. And that's where that skill, I mean, I can't remember who was it. I think maybe it was something that you mentioned or something. And I just found that so incredible. Like at the end of the day, when I am debriefing, I am looking at that mirror. And seeing, you know, what were the good things and, you know, what were the bad things. You know, you can look at it in so many different ways, but, you know, I love that idea of the mirror.
But the important thing there is at least you look at the mirror.
Yeah.
A lot of people refuse to look at the mirror.
Yeah.
You know, and refuse to look at the reflection and what's happening. And if that's your default setting in the beginning, that's fine. Because that's part of the rites of passage. That's part of the journey of then forcing yourself to look and seeing where you need to adjust. You know, it's this constant iterative process of adjustment.
Yeah.
And then you see the growth.
Yeah. So for traders who truly want it and are willing to sacrifice everything, you've noticed that our success rate increases significantly. However, you've also mentioned that other factors that need to align, such as having a growth mindset and a strong peripheral learning acumen. Can you elaborate on why these traits are so essential, especially marrying them together?
Yeah, you know, it's always funny is, well, not funny, what's a general question, you know, you get asked, you know, so we have two arms. We have the AXIA, well, now we have quite a few arms, but like the two original arms, the education arm, which feeds talent in the professional trading arm. Mm-hmm. So AXIA Futures, education, AXIA Markets Pro, the professional prop arm. And you get people, you know, messaging us, oh, what's your success rate? You know, if someone goes through your course. And, you know, it's a question where, you know, it's a legitimate question to ask, but I always ask, you know, our success rate for the right person, the right character, the right caliber of person who's willing to learn, the person who's willing to digest lots, the person who's willing to take knocks. There's a lot of from that other person's side.
Yeah.
We have that right person, our success rate is damn high.
Yeah.
Okay. The person who starts questioning himself very fast, who succumbs to his monkey mind, who doesn't have resilience when he takes a loss, who's not willing to listen to the the people who have paved the road ahead on skills and development. Those people, no matter how much we can train them, we can sit them behind our very top traders. We can sit them behind 3 traders who are making 20, 30 million a year. They won't make it.
Yeah.
And so our success rate there is 0%.
Yeah.
Because it takes 2 to tango. But those who come into our ecosystem and have all the qualities that we require to be a strong trading, learning athlete at the beginning of the career, well, we'll get you there.
Yeah.
But you are going to face many challenges along that journey. And a lot of junior traders go, oh yeah, these challenges. They don't know what the challenge is until they really face it in its face.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Alex, for the conversations today. It's always a pleasure having you on and being able to have
Love the feast.
These candid discussions. So thank you so much for your time. For you guys out there, let us know how, what did you think of this format, this open discussion, these candid conversations. I think they're incredibly valuable and insightful. Let us know how what you think about them in the comments below. And let's also open the discussion in the comments. Really, it'd be really great to hear what kind of tools do you use. Using the DOM, using the market profile. Is it something new to you? Let's open that up and hear what you guys have got to say, and also your challenges. What kind of challenges are you experiencing at the moment, or what have been significant milestones for you? We of course, as you've been following the channel, we've got a whole host of complete, beautiful insights and training videos. And we do have our career program, like we mentioned it in this video, the 6-week career program starting in February. We also have the Blueprint coaching program, and you're more than welcome to visit us on the trading floors. So on that one, I'm going to leave you there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And we'll catch you on the next conversation.